I think what I'll do is I'll start off with I spent the last 15 years in Silicon Valley, and out there, I worked in tech during the day. And in the evenings, I had a shipping container, 20-foot shipping container, in an artist's warehouse. Yeah. And it was really nice because I had my own workshop set up in the shipping container. There was a community metal shop, a community wood shop. There was a couple of other small businesses there that were making furniture or leather work, glass blowers. And it was a really great place to just unwind and tinker and work on side projects. And when I came out here to Arizona, I was looking around for a spot like that, and I did not find one. I found that groups of artists and engineers were very cliquey. Investors are very cliquey here as well. And so I also do fire art, like propane and metal fire sculptures. And a lot of the art spaces are more traditional media, and fire is completely out of the question for their structure and insurance. So, and so I was thinking, okay, well, I need to get my own warehouse. And due to how expensive industrial real estate is for an individual, it would be nice if I could figure out a model to get other people to pay my rent, right? And so that means I need to start an organization, a business, make it sustainable, and also provide this sort of space for other people. Because I'm sure that I'm not the only one that wants to do freeform welding and fire art and metal forming and rapid prototyping, tinkering with electric motors, battery packs, stuff like that, robotics. And so providing that service for others. And then I heard that I explored around and I saw that there were a lot of big problems with startups and seed investment, pre-seed investment, and Series A sort of plunging around here. And I already knew from my time in Silicon Valley that investors have a herd type mentality, right? Because a lot of them are non-technical, or just spreadsheet. And so once the first one joins in, invents, then the rest follow, right? So you knock down the first domino, and then you have your group of investors that want to come in. And so I was thinking, well, I can solve all of these problems by just adding each more of this scope, and then solve the collective problem that I have for everyone that shares some of these interests. And so then now we have our first 6,800 square foot prototyping facility here. And then we're prototyping how the co-working will work, the acceleration of startups. And we get a sneak peek into people who need a space to work, to make visible things, and how they approach problems and how they overcome them.
Yeah. And it's amazing that you have this idea within Silicon Valley, from seeing how you bet people at Berkeley to be able to start a co-working space that overall embellishes community. And it's so important. So I'm going to talk a little bit about you. What got you into engineering, and what got you into Silicon Valley?
Yeah. The first language I learned was a dialect of BASIC called QBasic. And it ran on the Parallax BASIC stamp from microcontroller. And I had asked my parents for this robotics kit for Christmas one year. And they got it for me. And I taught myself from this book and the CD that is in there how to program and to do hardware engineering with the circuit boards and the LEDs and resistors before I had dial-up internet. That's it. And before that, my father had gotten this computer program that ran on, the Pentium or the Intel 386 processor. And for 686, it's like 300 megahertz, something like that. And it was full screen from DOS, and each key that you pressed on the keyboard on the screen popped up a different sure and a sound. And so before I could walk, I was using the computer. And then once I could read, I learned how to read. My mother taught me how to read before I, entered school. And I would just burn through books. And then I got, Popular Science and Popular Mechanics magazines, and I would read through all of that. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. I can't wait to have a place where I can just work on these things.
Yeah. So you think that like that love of of reading and learning and your parents being that first person to like really spark that joy in you is what kind of took off.
Yeah. My father did a stint at Texas Instruments working on missile guidance systems.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's a veteran of the Vietnam War. And so when he got out of the Army, one of the first jobs he did as a civilian was missile guidance systems at TI. Yeah. And so I'm pretty sure I got the engineering mindset from him, and the resilience of my mom's Filipino culture.
Yeah.
And so combined together is just a lot of stubborn-headedness motivation.
No. Yeah. I think some of the people the people like in today's world, I think if people like our family start that spark young, that sets the foundation for where we're gonna go. And it sounds like with your family that hear what's behind that little spark is what's behind all of this.
Yeah, definitely. And the support of that. And so from the very beginning, I have been 1 foot in the software world, 1 foot in the hardware world, and then moving forward that way. And a lot of my frustration from my time in Silicon Valley was being fit into one bucket of software only, right? And infrastructure.
Yeah.
And so I had grown up in a small rural town called Kaufman, Texas, a town of 5,000 people. And my whole time growing up there was very frustrating. Being smartest kid in school, the district in the county or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And wanting to get out of there to a place where there were other people that were doing smart and interesting and curious things.
Yeah.
And so to that point, my family was taking a road trip around the nation, and I was 21 at the time. And when we had gotten to Silicon Valley, visiting a second cousin out there, I found a couple of posts from somebody on Hacker News who was getting a hacker house together, and said, okay, cool, let's meet up at a coffee shop in Redwood City. And I met up with them, and they were like, cool, we need someone to write server software and run the infrastructure and server infrastructure for us. We are renting a room out of a frat house in Berkeley, and you can come crash with us if you write code and run our servers. I said, okay, that's perfect. And in my free time, I will network with other people in Silicon Valley to try to find a contract with.
Yeah.
And so at that point, I went back to my family. I said, hey, I'm staying here in Silicon Valley. Y'all can continue with the road trip, and I will come back and meet y'all in Texas whenever I find a paying gig. And at that point, I decided to drop out of college with a 1.2 GPA, $400 to my name, and a duffel bag full of clothes. And I walked into the room of the frat house that the startup was renting. And there was a mattress in the middle of the floor, a couch in the corner, another couch in the corner, a bunk bed in the corner, and somebody had put a mattress on the faucets. So there were about 6 of us in that rural frat house over the summer in Berkeley, California. And so we would either drive the Prius, if the Prius, somebody had brought their Prius from home, and or ride BART from Berkeley to San Francisco every day. And that was the whole beginning of the 15-year Silicon Valley arc and hacker house adventures and misadventures. It was exactly like you would see in the Silicon Valley sitcom show. But when it gets out of distribution, it's actually exponentially crazier than what you see in the Silicon Valley show.
What is the biggest lesson that you were in your time in Silicon Valley, and how did you bring that over to Startup Central? What's that biggest lesson?
That you do not have to be a typical business for spreadsheet person to do business. That you can do business in a more empathetic way. That money, power, and greed and leverage over others is not the most important thing. And the most important thing for me in learning all of that is that if it's important and that it needs to be built, someone has to front the inefficient costs of making that happen. And the MBAs aren't going to do that. That's not what they wish I could do.